Hi everyone, this is Jim with JP Reacts, where you come to see a former candidate talk about what politicians mean when they give speeches and what they mean when they don't say things. Today we're going to listen to a video from Congressman Boyle. He's giving the Democratic Weekly Address. This comes right after the certification of President-elect Biden from the Congress after the horrific attacks on the Capitol this week. There is a quote I found that I think is pretty apt that I'll deliver at the end of the video. But if you're interested in this, let's stick around until right after this. Okay, so let's jump right into the video from Congressman Boyle.
Fellow citizens, I'm speaking to you from the United States Capitol, where this week the whole world watched a shameful assault on our democracy play out right before our eyes. A violent mob stormed the Capitol in order to stop Congress from upholding its constitutional responsibility to validate the presidential election. Incited by some and radicalized by others, these domestic terrorists want to impose their will over that of we the people.
So I'm glad he called them terrorists, because that's exactly what they were. When he said incited by certain people, the main person that incited this group was President Trump. And just broke in the news today, I don't know if he's going to bring it up during this weekly address, that the House is going to start impeachment proceedings with hopefully a vote that's going to happen on Monday, and then a vote on Tuesday, and then it's going to be up to the Senate to decide if they're going to remove him. Again, for a president to be removed from office, needs 2/3 of the Senate to vote in favor of the articles of impeachment from the House, which in this case is 67 senators need to vote for him. Currently, there are 50 Republicans and 48 Democrats. The two Democrats that won in the state of Georgia probably won't be seated until the end of the month, so that's why it's 98. So that probably means they only need 66 and not 67. But hopefully we can move forward and in that direction and get the dangerous man that's in the White House right now out of the White House.
Failed. At 3:40 in the morning, I stood in the well of the House of Representatives, the People's House, as Vice President Pence announced Congress had carried out its constitutional duty and affirmed the election of Joe Biden as President of the United States and Kamala Harris as Vice President. What was at stake this week was not choosing the next president, for the people already made that decision in this election. This was about something bigger than Donald Trump or Joe Biden or any man or woman. It was about the survival of our democracy. 2 centuries ago, one of our founding fathers cautioned against the danger of taking our democracy for granted. John Adams wrote, quote, "Remember, democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself. There never was a democracy yet that did not commit suicide."
And it's going to be incumbent on the people in the next Congress to make sure they put in some reforms to make sure that this never happens again. Not only the attack on the Capitol, but just the general provisions of what went down in the White House over the last 4 years. I'm not going to rehash everything that went down. You guys that are paying attention know. But it has not been a good time for the rule of law in the White House over the last 4 years. And it's going to be incumbent on this Congress to get together and pass some reforms that really puts some limits and some parameters around stuff that we took for granted that the president would just do, because that's the way it's always been done, but wasn't ever actually codified into law. We need to apparently we need to codify those things into law, and hopefully the next Congress tackles that right away. So let's continue.
The greatest threat to democracy is never external. It is from within. We must never take for granted our democracy. It must be defended by every generation, always. The scenes from Wednesday were ugly and unforgettable, especially for those of us who lived through it. Yet I remain optimistic. Growing up in Philadelphia, where our democracy was born, and raised in an immigrant family, I was often brought to visit the historic sites. Every summer, without fail, we would spend an entire day seeing Independence Hall, Congress Hall, the Liberty Bell. It was at Independence Hall where our nation was declared free and our Constitution born. At the Constitutional Convention, it was an open question as to whether this young nation, only a few years old, would survive. The convention's oldest and most accomplished delegate was Benjamin Franklin, one of our greatest founding fathers and my city's greatest citizen. Physically feeble, he rarely spoke throughout the convention. In a notable address toward the close of the convention, he gently urged dissenting delegates to put aside their legitimate criticisms and unite to adopt our Constitution. On the final day, as the last delegates were signing the document, Franklin pointed toward the sun on the back of the convention president's chair. Observing that painters had found it difficult to distinguish a rising sun from a setting sun, Franklin went on to say, quote, "I have often, in the course of this session, looked at that sun behind the president without being able to tell whether it was rising or setting. But now at length, I have the happiness to know it is a rising sun."
I just want to bring up the fact that I have some unpopular opinions when it comes to the Founding Fathers. I don't see them as infallible. I don't see the Constitution as unimpeachable. There's always going to be need changes. They did the best they could given the facts that they knew in the 18th century. So our Constitution has withstood the test of time, but it is not perfect, and we definitely need to make sure that we are making changes to it as the needs of the centuries progress. Was never imagined to be written in stone. That's why there was put in a provision to amend the Constitution. That being said, the Founding Fathers have had a lot of good quotes throughout the years that have come across, and this is one of them. And after seeing at the deaths of 7 people, I think at last count right now, 2 of them are police officers. One of them, there's video of one Capitol police officer being mercilessly beaten by these rioters and terrorists that attacked the Capitol this past week. It's good to know that there is still hope. We still do have a pretty strong democracy as long as we're willing to work towards it and build towards it to make it closer to that more perfect union that we were talking about.
In a week such as this, when an armed mob stormed the Capitol, it can be hard to tell whether that sun is rising or setting on our American democracy. But have no doubt, be not afraid, for the miracle at Philadelphia lives. Our Constitution held. On the 20th of January, the sun will rise, and at 12 noon, a peaceful transfer of power will take place in America. Thank you, and may God continue to bless the United States of America.
So that was Congressman Boyle from the Democratic address. The end of that was obviously very hopeful, and I hope he's right that this is just the beginning. This is still a good period for the United States moving forward. I do have some considerable concerns about that, but there's always room for things to improve, and it is possible that things can get better as long as the country comes together and works towards those things. Right now, it's hard to imagine something like that happening, but you never know in the future what could happen. And I did come across a quote from Gene Roddenberry over this last week that I feel like is something that we should all take to heart. I'm going to read it now. It says, "In a very real sense, we are all aliens on a strange planet. We spend most of our lives reaching out and trying to communicate. If during our whole lifetime we could reach out and really communicate with just 2 people, we indeed are very fortunate." And hopefully those of you that are watching this, hopefully we make that connection and we can count ourselves as fortunate. Hopefully you found some value in this video. If you did, please like it. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think Congress's first priority should be. Right now, it's going to be the $2,000 relief checks for COVID, but right after that, what do you think the next thing should be? Should it be a presidential reform bill? Should it be something else? Let me know in the comments below, and until I see you next time around the internet, have a great day. Bye.